What's up, good people? Mark Holmes here, and as always, I want to thank you all for watching, commenting, subscribing, and being part of the Joe Boo Sports Report. Without you guys, as well as you ladies, you know that this literally does not work. Welcome to my day job. This is where my life gets a lot of crossover, bringing you guys Cowboys news while I'm doing anything in the world that you can imagine. We have some news. One thing you can say about Stephen Jones is he doesn't lie to you. He doesn't bullshit you. He's not deceptive. He lets you know exactly what he's thinking and what he's doing. So right now, the Cowboys are close to getting Dorrance Armstrong's contract done, bringing back him into the fold. Even though we all thirst for some better players while other players are out there. So shout out to Dorrance Armstrong, who has been getting better every year and is developing into a good player. I think he had one less sack than Randy Gregory did last year. So I'm not saying that that's a bad move at all. If you couple that kind of move with some other moves, I think you've really got something there. On kind of a little bit different note here, this house that I'm working in was built in 1820, the red brick house. This part was an addition that was put on probably in the early 1900s, and I have to fix this old house. A lot of you will look at this and say, what a piece of shit. What are you doing? Why would you challenge and do something like that? Bulldoze it over and start over. But see, I look at things differently. I think that you have to understand where you came from to know where you're going. Without your history, you have no map to guide you. And this lies the problem for Stephen Jones. Stephen Jones has never had to develop stuff. He's never had to be the architect. He's never had to do without. So when I come through here in this house and I start tearing it apart, a lot of you guys just see rubble and debris. But I see something totally different. I see where I'm a link in the chain. I'm only here for so long. Let me show you something, and let me tell you what I mean here. Because there's treasures all over the place if you open your mind and you look for them. So you look at this, and what do you see? You see some rotten wood. You see a whole lot of mess. You see a lot of sweat here. No. What I see is this. I see wood that was cut down well over 100 years ago. Wood, be it not pretty, down there it's rotten. Right there, that shit is solid as a rock. That wood, you can't get that unless you find a place like this. The new wood, it's not the same thing. Shit's not as strong. In fact, they've had to change the building codes so you use thicker lumber, because you see these pieces up here, these timbers? You couldn't do that same thing with today's pine. It's too soft. It's not strong enough. And as I'm going through here, and as most people would say, bulldoze it over, I want you to take a look at something that we found down here. And if you like this stuff, we're going to be working on this until we get it done over the course of the next few months. Hopefully we get this done before football season so I can be down here actually doing my thing. You'll be able to follow along as we go through. We'll probably start doing some live streams, but check this out. They did things differently. So before they had plywood, they had solid pieces of wood. Those are almost an inch thick. So when they finished putting down that flooring, before they put down their multiple layers of linoleum, they actually made sure that they didn't waste anything. Because see, we're a throwaway society now. They even use the newspapers for insulation and underlayment. So look at this. I'm trying to be real careful taking this stuff up because I want to preserve some of it. This paper right here is from 1953. I see peanuts here, and so as we carefully take up the floor, we can see what's preserved up underneath of it. And it's funny when you start looking at some of these newspapers and reading some of the headlines. And what you find out about your history is things haven't really changed much. I'm looking here. This is 1953. Zlaki, new chief of Czech government. Wow. Aren't we dealing with all that kind of stuff now? Let's look down here. Blue Cross director, Council Rump calls gambling charge. So, herein lies the problem for Stephen Jones and the Dallas Cowboys. Yeah, everything that they know is from the 90s where Jimmy Johnson brought them up. But they didn't learn the whole lesson. They only took bits and pieces of it. That's why we still run the same offense that we did back then. That's why the Cowboys were forever hiring the same personnel or former players that we had. They, instead of looking and saying, how can I reuse this player? How can I get the most out of it? I spent my money. Is there something else I can do with that money to make it go further? And see, that's what other teams realize. When you hear New Orleans restructures my man DeMario Davis and other players and things like that to get more money, they know that they have a core group of guys that understand what they're trying to do. They know that they have a good defense, and they don't want to mess that up. But in the same time, they recognize that that defense and the great players that they have aren't enough to get them to Super Bowl. So we can take these guys, we can leverage what we've already spent on them by restructuring and finagling some extra money to use that to help us go further. And that's what they did back 70 years ago. They bought that newspaper. They spent their money. Hey, money's hard to come by. What can we use that for to help us get something bigger? And until Stephen Jones learns that, understands that when you have an Amari Cooper, when you have great players, you find a way to work out with them. You don't just say the hell with them. And that's the problem. Stephen Jones is part of that throwaway situation. So, I'm going to keep in here gently taking up the flooring. And I think what I'm going to do as a tribute to the people who did this 70 years ago, and I'm going to link in the chain, I'm going to take some of these newspaper and I'm going to put it in some of the wood that's in here and epoxy it so that way it'll be able to last forever. This is crazy. All right, I see we got a a Damn Gina update, so I need to check that out. Peace.